right, you guys, welcome back to The Common Theory, the number one cPDH podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Gatorbait, along with my man Rohan and along with my man Kunks. And as always, we've had some crazy stuff going on this week. We've been busy, we've been crazy, we've been wild, like you name it, we've been it. How you doing, my man Rohan? How's things been going for you?
How are things? Work has been busy. It's the busy season for advertising, marketing stuff, which is what I do. Going to Chicago next week, and I'm very excited about that. Super stoked to have a few days off and go put my body through something totally hellish. Yeah, that's me. Pretty simple. Franklin, how about you, man?
Doing pretty good. Just finally got reimbursed for all my Vegas stuff. So I finished buying all the missing pieces for Dargo Kedis and our new secret deck that we're going to be playing next week this weekend by the time everyone sees it, which Izlain can already spoiled, but we're all going to be playing Cerberus. So I finally ordered all the pieces for that, so that should be coming in soon. I guess in the news, the RC unfortunately had to relinquish their control over to Wizards of the Coast, which we all kind of saw happening very soon. It just sucks seeing the circumstances of how it happened.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. But you know what? The most important thing is that those who are on the RC can hopefully be a little safer. You know, they don't have to worry so much about things like threats and all that, which is super fucked and not completely unconscionable and not super uncool. That's fucked up. So yeah, exactly. I'm glad that they can hopefully sleep easy. I'm
just happy that and after watching the stream with Gavin Verhey and Aaron Forsyth, I felt super comfortable with them taking over, and they kind of put a little preview of the 4 bracket tier system thing, which is super funny to see. Swords and Plowshares technically the most bottom tier card that should be in every white deck. That's super funny to see, just them telling everyone, run more removal.
It's not as funny as when they said Soul Ring is a tier 0.
First of all, every single American, when they're born, is given a birth certificate with a Soul Ring attached to it.
I'd like to see a little bit more unanimous decisions that they have just with their thoughts on cards, I'm not, whether I agree or don't agree, right? It'll still bring a little bit more uniformity to a lot of the thought process with some cards, So, which I'm here for.
Yeah, because it seems like the biggest issue that they have is just casual players just mismatching the power levels, which just kind of helps out that system. Which, again, the whole power level system of the 1 to 10 bracket didn't really help because everyone just says, "Oh no, I'm a 7." This kind of codifies it. Which is just nice in general.
Chris, how are you, man?
Yeah, man. Not too bad, man. Been hot out here, working outside, doing my thing.
You guys survived the storm? Because you're here with us.
Yeah, it didn't hit us too bad. We're not North Carolina or Tennessee or any of those places, but we got a ton of rain, tons of wind. The wind was more of the pain in the ass than anything else, but
as
overall,
always,
just another day in Florida, as weird as that is. So
yeah, it's just weird that today was hotter than the entire week I was out in Vegas, and that's a literal desert.
Yeah, it was disturbingly sunny today, not a cloud in the sky. So.
Yeah, it's so weird because we're getting the cold front. That's the residuals off the storm now. So today we got pretty cold. I'm literally wearing a flannel right now. It's cold out.
It's
stuff.
90 here.
It was 90.
That's insane to me. It's 50 here.
It's 50? Holy shit. Just for that statement, I need to... Yeah, it's dark. It's dark outside. It's 9 o'clock at night. It's 82 degrees right now. So it's hot.
It's ridiculous, bro.
That's wild.
So, but with all that said, let's jump into our subject. So we have a really interesting one for you guys today. One that I'm very passionate about because I believe there's a little bit of a divide in the community overall with the subject, and I really would like to bring it like out in the public, everybody could see it, everybody could realize what we have going on. And the subject matter at hand is raw card power versus engines. So essentially, let's define the terms for these guys real quick. Raw power. These cards are like, when you think of a color, and let's think about like the Woober color pie, we're going to look at white, right? And we think of white, that's stave off, right? Easy example we could give you of something that's just raw power. Like this card, if you're playing white, you probably should be playing this card. And if you're not, you need to give me a reason why.
Yeah, you can think about these cards also as staples. Like, like exactly what Chris said. You almost, like when you're building your deck, you're building, a Boros deck, let's say, like you're always going to be putting stave off in the deck. You're like, to begin with, it's like the first cards you start adding into the deck list, right? You're like, exactly. All right, I'm in white. I'm obviously going to play these cards. And, these are the cards that are going to get cut last, probably, if you cut them at all, right? And I think when those cards get cut, there's like it's real spicy. There's like a reason you're doing it, and it's like kind of shocking.
Yep, exactly. But then let's define engines. So engine is a card, and I think this is going to be the one that a lot of people may like freak out when I say this card. I know this is going to sound like a hot take, but it's Ophidian Eye. Ophidian Eye is an engine, right? If you build a deck that's mono blue, and your whole point of Ophidian Eye is put it on a random blue creature that has no evasion, no anything, it's just a vanilla blue creature.
Wait, are you making fun of me for putting Ophidian Eye on my Morphic Looter?
Has to draw a card somehow.
That's really
whether you punch people or you loot.
It seems that way, but in reality, right? Like if you just put it on a random creature, you swing in for one, you draw one card, right? That's not the worst thing on the planet, right? That's still good, but you haven't built your engine. Now, let's look at the engine ways you could build this card. You could put that card on a pinger that says tap, deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So now you're able to tap it, shoot a player whenever you feel like it, draw a card. Now, let's take it a step further. We put it on a pinger that says tap, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Now you tap, deal 1 to each opponent, draw 3 cards. Now, let's take it another step forward. Let's put it on a creature that has an untapped ability. For instance, a horseshoe crab. And you pair it with 2 of these cards. A card that, like Hermetic Study and Ophidian Eye. Now we're building an engine. And that's what we're going to be bringing to you guys today. The difference between raw card power in our format and developing an engine. Because we want to demonstrate why an engine is more powerful than raw power in our format. Do you guys agree with that last spicy take? I know it's a little, I'm saying that we don't have as much raw card power. What are you guys' thoughts? Rohan, give me your thoughts, and let's move over to Kuntz after that.
Decks that can leverage these engines are inherently extremely strong. You see them at the top of the tier list generally, and that's kind of why they're at the top of the tier list, because they have commanders that can exploit these particular engines that are doing, frankly, crazy shit.
To say the least.
I think what I'm really interested in, and I think this sort of the spicy part is like, when do you start cutting out the raw power cards, the staples out of your deck, for more redundancy in those engines? How do we like measure and make those choices? So that's an interesting space.
Yep. Agreed. Franklin, what's your thoughts, bro? What do you got?
Yeah, so with that, it's just good to have a whole bunch of cards that work together. As you mentioned, Ophidian Eye and a whole bunch of pingers. Because once you slap Ophidian Eye or Tandem Look at onto a pinger, or just with Quicksilver Dagger, you're generating value over a whole bunch of turns, not just the one instance that you get to draw or get to cast the one card and then it's done. You generate value over time, and that's amazing.
And we aren't the format that just wins on turn 1, turn 2, right? Like, we are going to be getting into these grind fests, which I believe is very relevant for you guys to know because, like, our average is turn 8, but we can have games as quickly as turn 3, turn 2.
Those are extremely rare.
Extremely rare, yes, but I would say in my play group and a lot of people that we play with down here in Florida, our average is turn 5, turn 6. So, some metas can be faster than others. But with that said, let's kind of dive into it, guys. Do you mind if I just straight jump into it?
Go for it. Start off with white.
Yes. So, guys, we're going to be doing this. And from now on, just understand that we're always going to be taking these kind of things in Wooburg order just so we could match the color pie. We could go in that, general frame. And also, too, again, we are not going to be talking about artifacts in these. We break down the color pies. We will be revisiting a lot of these videos on the back end and through our Patreon and other means to go in and talk about the artifacts. But there's so few far in between that it's a little bit more difficult because we are just in commons and whatnot. So, but with that little caveat out of the way, I'm diving in. Let's hit it. Let's go with Wooburg order. Let's start with white. Raw power. And I think I already said it earlier, and I'm going to say it again. Stave off. Stave off is essentially, if you're not playing stave off in your white deck, you're doing it wrong. Like, I can't tell you a single deck in this entire format that does not play that card. Like, that card is gross. So, stave off. Rohan, do you have the card available?
All right. It says for 1 white, Pip, it is an instant. Target creature gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. And then, the rules text underneath that. It can't be blocked, targeted, dealt damage, or enchanted by anything of that color. And the most important part here is it's target creature, not your creature or your target creature.
Which is insane. So you can use it offensively to either give one of your attacking creatures pro color that you need, or if someone tries to enchant something, you just go pro that same color. You can't target it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, like, it's a proactive card. It's a defensive card. Like, you name it, this card could do it all. That's actually what pushes it so much farther ahead than cards like Apostle's Blessing and or some of these other protection spells that we have in this format. But that's one of the cards that we're going to use as the example today for raw power. Now I'm going to hit you guys with an engine that we could develop in white. And this is flicker effects. So flicker effects specifically, and the reason that these are an engine in our format is because a lot of these flickers, 1, instant speed, and 2, they do not say target your creature. Now, some of them do.
Some of them do.
But not all of them.
Yep.
And what some of them do, so let's use as the example here, Flicker of Fate.
Flicker of Fate is a 2-mana instant that costs 1 on a white that says exile target creature and then return it back onto the battlefield. Again, it says target any creature. Sorry, it says target creature or enchantment. The enchantment matters because we can flicker, Journey to Nowhere or Oblivion Ring.
And or your opponent's auras.
Yeah.
So there's so much synergy built into these cards, right? So exactly what Franklin said. Perfectly what he said. Yes, go for it.
I flickered someone's oubliette before. Yes. That was on my Abdel. And I was like, look, I'm not the threat. The Gretchen is, so I'm going to flicker that oubliette. And you can go hit the Gretchen. They're like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, the funny thing. No, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the funny thing about flickering auras is that because they come back in, they don't have to target anything. So you get around anything with hexproof or ward.
Correct. Yeah, you do. You really do get around a lot of these things. And this is, once again, one of those factors of just like building your deck around synergy. Because let's be realistic. If we're just playing Oblivion Ring as a standalone card, as raw power, sure, I guess I could see it as a card that's raw power, but let's be realistic. I guess I'm going to be the guy.
That's a sorcery speed removal.
Yeah, 3 mana sorcery speed removal that can be blown up, and it's kind of like if you hit their commander, it just goes back in the zone. So it's just like a null and void permanent at this point. Is that really raw power? That's kind of like a joke. Like, oh, thanks, or you time walked me, sure, whatever, and then you move on with your day. But now if we take that same ring, we put it into play, we put a trigger on the stack, we flicker or fade it, we put that trigger, we exile your creature, ADTBs hits another creature, and then we sit there and we throw an Archaeomancer into play, bring back that flicker of fate, we should start going to town. We develop this engine that goes, good luck. You think you could beat this? Good luck, bro. I'm going to exile everything you guys control forever in a day. Oh, you think you're going to kill the Archaeomancer? Flicker of Fate the Archaeomancer. Good luck, buddy.
That's when the Azorius decks just go from like aggro mode to control mode. Or like just the regular mid-range plan into an actual control plan.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or if you're a 60-card player, that's when you start moving into unfair magic.
Yes. Oh, yes. 100%. But I know we're using Azorius a lot, but I mean, Azorius is not the only deck that can do certain things like that, right? There's a few decks in the format that use this Oblivion Ring style package, which is just, once again, it's a package. It's an engine that you have to build your deck around and develop it, which is a great example is Wilson Far Traveler, right? It uses this aura package to be able to flicker and bounce and exile, right? Phyrexian Censor. I mean, there's a lot of decks that use these packages of cards because the more of them you have, the better they become and the more they overlap each other. It's very similar to a lot of decks that have combos in the format. They use these packages to stop players from comboing off, to stop players from getting too far ahead. So I really appreciate when I see these Journey and O-Ring packages, especially when they're built in with, your commanders and things of that nature. But with that said, let's move on to the next color. Rohan, do you want to take over blue?
So for blue, raw power, I think the quintessential, when people think blue, is going to be Counterspell. Pull it up.
The most ubiquitous blue spell.
Don't have to read it. You probably all know. Everyone who's ever played Magic probably knows this. I feel like it's printed in there. So yeah, Counterspell, 2 blue pips, instant, says counter target spell.
Man, I was really hoping for a lot more than that. You got us all excited. I think you got everybody out there excited, and then that's all you had for us, man. kind of a letdown, but
Yeah, don't you just love it when your card effects only have 3 words in it?
and it's literally the title of the card. Reading the card explains the card. So they told me. Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't explain shit.
All right, send it, man. Send it. Let us know how you think about Counterspell. What are your thoughts on it overall?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I play a blue deck that doesn't play it. It's insane. I mean, it's a staple of the format. It's a staple of the color. Someone's out there, and if you're out there, please leave a comment and let us know. And if you have your deck list on Moxfield, link us up because I want to see your decks, your blue decks that are not playing the spell.
Yep.
I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Really curious because I don't own one. I literally don't have one. Not a Pauper EDH deck that's in blue that doesn't play this card. I mean, it's bonkers. It's truly ridiculous.
It's literally the most iconic blue spell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when anyone talks about counters, they literally say counter spell, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with wraths. Why are they called wraths? Wrath of God, right? It's the exact same boat, right?
It's funny that the text for Counterspell says Counterspell, but you've got Lightning Bolt or something. Doesn't say Bolt target creature.
It should say that. That would be hilarious.
When we get to red, I'll tell a funny story about Lightning Bolt.
Sweet, please do. Yeah,
But
yeah, and I think
let's
there's
move on
another.
to the
We have
packages.
one more card in blue that I would argue also lives. Maybe
Yes.
it doesn't have the same iconic status as Counterspell, but has become a staple in the color as of late. Lorien Revealed. It says for 3 colorless and 2 blue pips at sorcery speed, draw 3 cards. It also has a second ability, which is arguably the most important part: island cycling for 1 colorless, which means you can spend 1 colorless, and search your library for any island typed land, which is crazy powerful. I mean, it finds you. It finds you dual lands. It finds you, of course, your regular islands. It also finds you Mystic Sanctuary, which is so busted.
Yep. My card has won me 2 tournaments. The card is gross.
It wins games. Yeah.
Yep.
Insane card. Wins games. Really, really good. And then on the flip side of that, we've got our engines. So in blue, much like white, we also have a flicker package. We have
Very nice
a number of instants that allow us to do the same as white. It's not quite as robust as white. I do not believe there's a 1 pip flicker in blue.
We do not.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We do have the most powerful with Ghostly Flicker, but we do not have the 1 mana Cloud Shift yet. So that is super fair.
And we have a number of 2 mana ones. A favorite of mine is Planar Incision. That card is cracked. You can also, like Flicker Fate, also target opponents. I believe, does that also hit enchantments? I'm going to pull it.
Artifacts.
It's artifacts.
Yes. Which is actually relevant now. It's becoming more and more relevant now.
Definitely relevant if you have the cards to support it. But yeah, I play this in my Rolsa deck, and I do play a number of artifacts, that you can flicker. One of my favorites being Tithing Blade.
Yes, it's a very good one.
Flickering a Tithing Blade.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty brutal.
Very
pretty
good.
Brutal.
Well, what goes with the blink effects, Rohan? Let them know.
Yeah. And you mentioned it when we were talking about white, about the things you can do once you flicker something, and then to recur that flicker out of your graveyard, you would use an Archaeomancer. So blue has a lot of these effects now.
Yes.
These Archaeomancer-like cards. Let me pull that up. Archaeomancer. It's a creature, human wizard, for 2 colorless and 2 blue pips. It's a 1/2. When Archaeomancer enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Extremely powerful ability.
Oh yeah.
It basically allows you to tutor any instant or sorcery from your graveyard, and as the format continues, we're getting so many more cards that allow you to dump cards from your deck or your hand into your graveyard, basically turning the Mancer into one of the strongest tutors because it's flickerable, like you were saying.
Yep.
If you flicker this card, you now can, of course, you can instant tutor anything, any instant or sorcery, whatever it might be. It could be Counterspell. We just talked about Counterspell. You need a Counterspell. You have an Archaeomancer on board. You have a flicker in hand. Congratulations, you have a Counterspell now. You flicker cast your flicker, your Planar Incision, targeting your Archaeomancer. It ETBs again. The ETB finds your Counterspell, puts that in your hand. You tap the mana. Boom, you got a Counterspell. The other thing you can do is if you have things that can flicker multiple cards, you have cards like Displace and Ghostly Flicker. You can flicker your Archaeomancer, and you can flicker something else as well. So if you have 2 Archaeomancers, oh boy, are we cooking?
God forbid you have Peregrine Drake or Cloud of Fairies.
Yeah. So it's 2 Mancers. You can flicker both Mancers with your Ghostly Flicker or your Displace. You can get your Ghostly Flicker. One of them will get your Ghostly Flicker back into your hand, and the other one will find whatever answer you need in your graveyard. Now, what Franklin was saying is if you have any other really powerful ETB permanent on board along with your 1 Archaeomancer, you can start potentially repeatedly flickering things. If you have a creature that has an ETB that allows you to untap enough lands that cover the cost of the flicker spell itself, well, now you've got a loop going, and that's combo. So, yeah, really powerful effects when you start combining them. The synergies of these cards are all really, out of control.
So let me hit you with a little, just a tiny bit of pushback.
Sure.
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate for this one. Archaeomancers. They're awesome. There's so many now, right? And we have so many now that now Wizards is putting like the Biblioplex assistants where they're putting them back on top of library now because we just have so many. It's so redundant now.
Right.
But you kind of said it earlier that this card specifically, now I'm only going to pick our Archaeomancer, only that one, because it's the only 4 mana one we have of them in blue. And that one specifically, I think the raw power of that card has gone up to where, spoiler alert, if you guys don't know, Rohan's Malcolm Breaches deck just plays that card all by itself now. Because of exactly what he was saying, right? That card is just power. It has gone up so high with things it could do with what you were saying, right? Discarding cards. You get to start picking and choosing.
So
cards
I'll counter your argument there. Well, you actually just said it. You said the words. You said discarding cards. So I wouldn't be playing that card if I didn't have a discard package in the deck. So I am running, things like Faithless Looting.
There's a couple cards with Survey on the deck, yes, but I don't believe
Yeah. There's I've got like Reign of Revelation, right?
Yeah.
Which is like a draw 3 discard card. So is it Charm? So there's a bunch. There's probably like 5 or 6 cards that allow me to discard, draw, and discard cards. So
you are building around it then.
Well, actually, those were in there first because they synergize with Breaches, and then the Archaeomancer came in after that because it synergizes well with those cards.
Totally.
Now I'm filling the yard, and now I have, like I was saying before, the card selection that comes with that is just crazy. It's like having a second hand of cards.
Yep.
When you play that one card.
And
4 mana for a draw, basically a draw 7. I mean, not exactly, but like, like it's nuts.
Well, let me hit you with this one too. Like the Archaeomancer can even let you go for like multiple win attempts, right? Because you go Blades, go for a win. Play Archaeomancer because you guys stopped it. Pull Blades back, go for a win again. So yes, I was wrong. The Archaeomancer is synergistic in your deck. It is. You did build around this card. It almost appears as if that card is raw power because of what it's doing, but once you actually like look down and see the construction of the list itself, it is actually a synergistic quality and an engine that you've built into the deck. So I love it. Love it. But with that said, I think we can move on to good old black, Franklin. You want to take us away with your favorite color?
Yeah, so with black, usually the most powerful cards in here are just pure straight removal. And what's the most ubiquitous removal in this color? Snuff Out. Which says, for 3 generic, 1 black, it's an instant spell that says if you control a swamp, you may pay 4 life rather than pay the cost of the spell. Destroy target non-black creature. It cannot be regenerated. That is like flat out the most ubiquitous black removal card in this format. It even has the same condition that it has to be a non-black creature. That's practically every single one of the black removal spells that are used.
I mean,
it is.
Is there another card in the format that you believe is similar to that, Franklin, or is it just Snuff Out?
Go for the Throw, but that I think is non-conditional.
I mean, I would say more Crypt Rats is the next one that we would have in the format.
Yes.
Like Crypt Rats, I think.
Crypt Rats used to be everywhere. Actually, I still think I still see in a whole bunch of blacklists, but you have to build around it so much. You have to make sure that you have a whole bunch of black pips or a whole bunch of black mana source.
Yeah.
In order to really get like a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, Crypt Rats used to be one of these cards, but it really does. It's really has changed a lot to where I don't think it is anymore one of those cards that is just purely raw power anymore. I think it is a true build around now.
The times are changing.
Yeah, but it does synergize with with some of our engine pieces of just Gray Flickers.
Well, hit us with some of the engine pieces then. Let us know. What do you got for the engines in black?
Going along with the entire Flicker strategy, we have all the Gray Flickers, such as Supernatural Stamina, Fungal Fortitude, Not Dead Yet. All of those.
Not dead.
Sorry, not dead after all. Not that after all. All of them let you recur your edict creatures, such as a Fleshbag Marauder, a Curse Marauder, all the Marauders.
All of
So
the
those
many Marauders. Yes, I mean that's another engine, right? Like all of these like creatures, right? That just like die and come back, and just each opponent sacrifices everything. It does break parity, right? A lot in our format because of the multiplayer aspect, right?
That's the other thing too. Like you can build so much, you gain so much value of just here's my one dude. Now everyone sacks a dude. Let me pay one more mana. Oh, now everyone has to sack another dude again.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes along again with another part of our engines, like the Deadly Disputes of the world, right? Like, so now we have all the Grey Flickers of the world. We have all of the Deadly Disputes of the world. We have all of the sack creatures of the world. And Wizards, it's kind of ironic when you look at these like 3 types of cards that we have. How many of those have we gotten literally within the past 2 years? Like,
yeah. So with the Deadly Disputes, it feels like we always get one every standard set now.
Every set.
Yeah, like I mean, it's crazy the amount of these cards that we've gotten, and I mean they're gross. Like these Deadly Disputes are.
Yeah, like you guys mentioned last week, there's a whole bunch of ones with upsides now.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Like making maps, making treasures, having flashback, like just every one of these cards is just good. And the more we have, I mean, I don't think anyone could say it better than what Rohan did, right? Black draws more than blue now. Oh, I got to sack a creature.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing that anyway.
Exactly. You're building this engine. And we're back, right? Like,
I mean, I mean, it's funny. It's funny. All of those engine types, right? The dispute effects, the Grave Flickers, and the both the sack fodder and the sack outlets. They all synergize together.
They do.
It's ridiculous.
You can make a deck of just a bunch of you can make a mono black pile that's just those cards and a decent commander, and it'll probably perform pretty well.
Yeah.
So Sir Conrad?
yeah, exactly.
It's literally Sir Conrad.
Right? Like, but that is
Sir Conrad's good. B tier, right? Like,
yeah.
It's fucking good.
But, I mean, that's what you do when you build an engine, right? Now, there are certain circumstances where you do build that, like, so I'll give you a little bit pushback, right? Because I think the biggest meme one is like a Thrall Parasite. Let's be realistic, right? It's just... You play a Thrall Parasite in the zone in comparison to a Sir Conrad, right? Like you kind of have like that.
Fair enough,
right?
Fair enough.
So yes, I get it, but what are you doing at that point? Like X short versus just pay 2 and just go to town, right? Like it's so much different of a metric there at that point, especially in the competitive format that we are playing in. So especially too, who's going to kill a Thrall Parasite but you, right? You're going to kill it yourself by accident. The Deadly Disputes of this world, I mean, I think the package in black has just gotten so amazing in these engines. And you're going to hear us too say these packages, right? So please don't take these things that we are saying packages and just auto-include them in decks, because they're not auto-includes. So just that quick caveat, don't just start slapping them in there and thinking, oh, well, this Grey Flicker package is going to be nuts in my random black deck. Maybe it doesn't fit it. You got to really look at the commander. Just because it's good doesn't mean it fits together. So make sure you are looking at that overall. But let's move on to the red one. This is one of my favorite ones, actually. And I think it's actually Franklin's favorite one. So I apologize, Franklin, for kind of taking it from you.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's my favorite card of all time.
Yeah, so how about this one? How about you go with the raw power then? You do the raw power, Rohan.
All right. Well, I already mentioned it earlier, but good old lightning bolt. I mean, it like I said before, it should probably just say bolt target creature or player.
Yeah.
At this point, right? It's 1 red mana for an instant. I mean, look, if you guys don't know what this did by now, just quit.
Well, no, you gotta still be nice. Bolt hasn't been printed since 2022.
Yeah, but what, dude? There's like 58 copies of Bolt, dude. And I opened the Bolt in my other pack when I got my mana drains, and don't even me.
Well, I guess there was a Bolt in the Clue box set, but
there was. Yeah,
dude, I got a Bolt that says Hadouken on it, bro. Get out of here.
Yeah, 1 red mana for an instant that says deal 3 damage to target creature or player. Very simple. It's one of the simplest cards of all time, but it does everything, right? It's removal, it's interaction, it's offensive.
Kills players.
You can hit players. You can use it to make up for the damage. Like, if you swing in with your little guy, it gets blocked. You can use it to remove their large creature, maybe their commander. Of course, like Frank was saying, you can go to face with it. It just does so much. And yeah, there are cards now that we have that are better in some ways, right? Like we've got Scred, right? We've got Galvanic Discharge. We've got all these other Lightning Bolt-esque things that can do other parts of what Bolt can do better, right? Like if you're just trying to hit creatures, there are cards that can do it better. If you're just trying to hit players, there are cards that can do it better. But there's no card that can do everything that Lightning Bolt can. That's why it's so insane, right? And when there's a red Pauper Commander deck out there that's not playing Lightning Bolt, I am shook. I'm fucking shook.
You're going to take 2 damage?
Well, here's one for you, Rohan. Here's how I think I could make sure that what you say goes completely undisputed. Sure. When I cast any, including Scred, and in fact, essentially everyone I know when we play games together, when they go, I'm going to tap 1, Bolt, but it's a Scred. They go Bolt, and you just know that your shit died. It's a Galvanic Discharge. They're like Bolt, and you're like, yep, and you just accept it because you know your thing died. It's not a Bolt, but you know it because it's such an iconic term at this point. I mean, I don't think there's any argument about Bolt. Truth be told, I really don't think so. I kind of let you have that one. So I'm going to go into the cards that Red has truly, finally developed an engine. We have 2 insane packages now in Red in the Pauper format. I'm going to go with the weaker one first, which I don't think is very weak. It has the thrill of possibilities of the world. Franklin, do you want to run through your thrills? Like, I mean, you've been a madman with these. Every time one gets printed, before I know it gets printed in the set, you've already messaged me, bro, look, another one. And I'm like, what does this one do? You're like, this one shocks players. This is nuts. I'm like, wow.
So that's grab the prize from Duff Morn.
There you go.
Oh, we don't have to put it on screen. Thank you, bro.
Whoa. Like, I mean, dude, how many are there now? Like, we don't have
1 per standard set. So this year we got 4. We got 4, plus regular thrill possibility exists. Technically, Modern Horizons 3 gave us a slightly more expensive one in Glimpse the Impossible. But for the 1 extra mana, we are... Actually, no, sorry, that's not a thrill possibility. That's
a reckless
Red Resolve.
Yeah.
Yep.
We can lump the 2 packages. We can lump the 2 together. They're both basically card draw.
Yeah, they're relatively similar in Red, but I mean, I think the thrills that discard really does push for certain archetypes, right? Because we could pair them in engine-wise with like Madness, right? And then we could pair them with Archaeomancer.
The Archaeomancer.
Exactly what Rohan said earlier.
Yeah, and in Air in the Street, you can run, Highway Robbery into sack of land.
Yeah, exactly, right? So there's so many of these now that, like, I mean, how can you go wrong with these? Like, you build them into your deck, you play 2 play sets of these, and you have these synergistic properties. Now, excluding the air industry that Franklin just said, after we're done with this last little section here coming up with green, we're going to go run through the Woober color scheme, kind of run a few decks with you guys so you kind of see what we're talking about overall. I mean, is there really much more to say about the throws? I mean, they're pretty generic.
They all have upsides.
They're pretty great, but they've gotten so many upsides, like throw, instant speed, right?
Demand answers, instant speed.
Demand answers.
Yeah, but sack and artifact too, right? Like, there's just so many of these. And Dude, I don't even remember the one that's a sorcery speed one at this point anymore because it's like almost outdated, but you still play it with the package.
I think that switches, Mark, but that gives you a wicked roll. And whenever the wicked roll,
I'm talking about the OG one, bro. Like the OG, just 2 mana, sorcery, discard a card, draw 2 cards.
Tormenting Voice?
Tormenting Voice.
Tormenting Voice, there we go.
Yep.
The doo-doo one of all of them.
And even then, that's still
you have the thick versions too, right? You have like Big Score and Unexpected Windfall.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
the extra fat versions.
Yep.
Yeah, and even with Unexpected, actually with both of them, they still give you the 2 treasures, so technically they come out at 2 mana.
Yeah. So you feel great about all of these, and let's be honest, they're fantastic in a format. They draw lots of cards. They really let you churn through your deck. They let you see more cards, and when you build around them, guess what? There are only upsides. All of these styles of cards, these engines, are pure build-arounds. You're not putting this in your generic deck. Yeah, sure, Rohan said it earlier. You can just slap them all together, put it in a random deck, slap random X commander into your zone. Will you deck be decent? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we're not trying to be decent. We're trying to win tournaments, right? So if you want to win, you're going to put a Sir Conrad in that zone, right? You're going to put this certain specific commander in that zone because then you're just have this amazing engine that's going to churn you through a game. It's going to churn you through the wins, and you're going to get there into the finals. But let's talk about, I think, the biggest...
Your favorite package.
Yeah, my favorite. It's been my favorite package for literally years, from all the way back from Dargo, or actually farther than that, from Crackling Drake to Dargo Kedis, like OG back long time ago. The Pinger package. So once upon a time, we had very, very, very few of these. We only had like 2 to 3. And
I think you only had like Firebrand Archer.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Firebrand Archer and Reckless Fireweaver. That's it.
We had Firebrand Archer. We had a Thermal Alchemist. We had a few. We had a few older ones as well. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but we had like 1 mana Goblin. It's like something skewer. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong because that's.
The one that hits it just hits one player. Yeah.
No, it hits every player. It hits you and every player.
Oh, the one that hits all players.
Yeah, it's like a 0/2 Goblin. Tap it, hit every player, including yourself. There's a bunch of weird ones like that. We have an Ogre that like taps and sacks an artifact, deals 2 to each player. Like there's a whole bunch of different ones that we had that are old, but not as good as the ones we have now, right? Because I think the standard of the ones we have now is Keswick Flame Breather, right? Like that is the standard, right? The Firebrand Archer, right?
Yeah, the last 2 years have produced pretty much produced every single Pinger that we use now, between Erebor Flamesmith from Lord of the Rings, Unruly Catapult from Wilds of Eldraine,
so good.
The downshift of Gutter Snipe and Commander Masters.
Yeah, Blister Stick Gremlin. I mean, they're just.
Well, that's from Ikoria.
It's one of the older ones now. But it's not.
Oh yeah, and I guess Peregrine Strongbow from Brothers War, and what's the new one?
Sunshot Militia.
Sunshot Militia. Yep.
I mean, there's just so many, right? And you can tell that we all play these because, like, boom, we can fire these off like a madman. You can tell we're Malcolm players, right? These cards are ridiculous, and once again, it's just like I said earlier with the Affinity Eye comparison, right? These cards are just good on their own, right? If you want to use them for raw power, fine. I'll grant it to you and say they're just raw power. But why would you not take something that's inherently powerful and pair it with this Affinity Eye? Pair it with this Malcolm package. Pair it with all of these other things that are just going to push it and push it and push it to where you get this engine. I've drawn 58 cards in one turn cycle from an Ophidian Eye and a Thermal Alchemist. If you're trying to win tournaments, that's the play patterns that you're trying to achieve, right? Like, I don't see how you could go wrong with these engines that you could develop. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on this, like, Pinger package?
I mean, that's how you win tournaments, right? That's how you won with Malcolm Kedis. That's how Russell won with Malcolm Kedis. That's how Ankylosaur won with Lorehold Apprentice, through Pingers.
A little slightly different setup, but yeah, not the
it's still a Pinger
but-
package.
Yeah, it's still a Pinger package. I agree.
Yep. Pingers win games. I mean, it's like in cDH, right? With the old phrase, probably not true anymore, but food chain wins games. Here, it's pingers win games.
But with that said, I mean, I really don't think we need to dive into the pingers all too much because I think it's relatively well known that, we live somewhat, I know there's words around the community that says we somewhat live in a pinger meta, which is not entirely wrong, but
that was earlier this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's a mistake. I mean, I do think they help end games because they are hitting all of your opponents. So
yeah,
that universal damage is insane. And now we're going to get Arabella.
Yeah, and it's incidental, right? It's incidental damage. It's just
exactly.
You're getting free damage off of your cantrip, right? Off of your preordain, right? You were going to preordain anyway, but now your preordain's dealing 3 damage. Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Thanks. Exactly.
Yeah.
We all agree that the pinger package is just. It is what it is. It's pretty insane at this point. I don't think there's much more to talk about in the pinger package, but let's move on to our we got it. I was gonna say not forgettable.
Certainly not least.
Certainly not forgotten.
Certainly not forgotten. Green, the G in Woober that we did not forget at all. For sure. Franklin, hit me with the staples with power. What is the strongest card that you always see in green decks that doesn't get missed?
It's gonna be Vines of Vastwood. It's a 1-mana instant that has kicker for an extra 1 and a green. It says target creature gains hexproof, and for the kicker cost, it gets an extra +4/+4.
Oh, just +4/+4.
Yeah, only just +4/+4.
Not much.
Not much, so you could actually survive a Wrath effect or a Bolt in case of you name another color and it gets bolted on the stack too for double protection.
Yeah, I mean the card's gas.
The card's super gas.
I feel like I actually get blown out more by that card than I do by Counterspell or Lightning Bolt or kind of a lot of other interaction. I mean, partly it's because when you're playing against a green player, it's like the Spanish Inquisition. You don't fucking expect it. You're not expecting the Vines of Vastwood, right? And every time I'm like, no, yeah, I got got.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't expect them to run defensive interaction like that. You just expect them to have, fight and bite spells.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to that because you kind of just alluded to this one. So here's an engine that I don't want to say I don't agree with, but I think it's almost a trap. But I think we should discuss it because green in our format has a billion fight and bite spells at this point. There's so many. I'm not even going to bore you guys with the amount. There's a metric. I mean,
there's literally one in every set.
Or 3 or 4 in every set. There are so many. It's insane. I mean, I've seen decks with over 30 different copies in decks. So, there's... If you want to talk about redundancy of cards in our format, I'm almost positive it has the most of anything by a ton. So, the fight and bites are an engine that you can build around. Don't personally like it myself. But if you guys have a deck that you believe can be successful, please put it down below. Love to see it. Love to honestly comment about it and see what we could kind of discern from seeing how many you do play.
I totally agree with you. There aren't a lot of other cards. While it is an engine, there's not a lot of other cards that pay them off in the color very well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, prove us wrong. But what's interesting to me is that even despite having a billion of these cards, most green decks run, 4 or less of them.
Yeah.
A very, very tiny percentage of the deck is dedicated to these cards, of which we have an enormous number of. So it's just really curious, right? How that works out.
Yeah.
Just because of the lack of support around the archetype.
Yeah, that's his Wizard's design of never giving green proper non-conditional removal. Which is super funny because Generous Gift is a color shift of Beast Within. Generous Gift is that common, not Beast Within.
Yeah,
But then again, if green gives their opponent a 3/3, they can't get over that 3/3 anymore because you need a bigger dude to fight the 3/3.
Yeah, exactly. So, but let's move on to the engine that I think everyone knows, and this is essentially exactly like the pingers, right? Untappers, mana dorks, which are pseudo untappers, and Landoras. I think these are the packages that we have, the synergistic packages that are just ridiculous in our format. I mean, most argue that, oh, that's just Gretchen and Weavers. I could tell you 10 other decks that I play those same packages in, and they're still pretty good. In fact, I played one the other day, didn't do so great. I whiffed horribly, but I had like I fireballed a player out of the game. That's how much mana I was able to produce with my dudes. But I played a deck called Sfella. Like, one player was getting out of hand, and I was like, well, I'm saving up my mana, but I don't like you right now because you're ahead of everyone. I'm just going to fireball you just out of the game for like 20. Get out of here. Just
did you remember to pay the extra 1 mana?
No, I just blasted him in the face. Straight to the dome. Just boom. You just take the whole fireball.
All right, cool. That, as long as you remember that you have to split it between X number of players.
Yeah, there's no split, dude. No, he was like
Dallas.
20. Yeah, he was a metric ton of life, and I was just like, die.
Then he turned metric ton deck.
But the untappers and the dorks and everything, I don't really honestly think we really have to discuss these too much because they're pretty good, right? Like you play Landoras when you play some amount of untappers. You play untappers because you play some amount of Landoras, and they kind of go hand in hand.
Or your commander has a tap ability.
Yeah, exactly. So, and dorks just help you get ahead, and they're trying to do everything that we do in the format. So, I mean, do you guys have any other thoughts on it? Like, truth be told, or?
No, I'm just happy that there's a new foil Seeker of Skybreak. And now that he's banned, those should be cheaper.
But let's end it strong for you guys. So we're going to go through some of these decks, and if we can name decks that don't play these cards, we'll give you examples. But if we can't, we won't. But we would like you guys to hit us with your examples. Let us know if you have a card that we've named or certain cards that you don't play and why down in the notes or down in the comments below, because we'd really love to actually know, because our first example in Wooburg Order in white, I honestly can't name you a single deck that I've ever seen or played that doesn't play Stave Off. That's one of those cards that's like, I can't name anything. And if you don't play it, please tell us why. I want to know. I want to know your commander.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know your commander, why, and your thoughts. So we don't have anything in white. Sad to say.
Yeah, I think like maybe in Abda when we took it out for like a week, and then we're like, we kind of need it back in here.
Yeah, exactly. But we had to put it back because we needed that protection. But let's move to blue. Ooh, Counterspell. Can you guys name a deck without Counterspell? No, I cannot name one.
Even though it's double blue, even all the decks that only splash blue still run it.
Exactly.
I may have a deck that does. I do have a deck that does not run Counterspell.
What do you got? What do you got for us?
My Amber Feywild deck.
There we go. That's a good one.
Does not run Counterspell because it's proactively trying to wheel its hand, more or less. And
there we go.
Yeah, it's actually trying to cut down on instants in general, play more to the board, so that way you're actually dumping your hand every turn instead of holding on to pieces. Yeah.
Well, so we have one. I kind of dig it.
Yes, and that makes sense too.
Yep. So let's move on to Black Snuff Out. Don't know a deck that doesn't play Snuff Out either.
All you have to do is play a swamp, which if you're running black and you're not running swamps, what are you doing?
What? Yeah. What deck is that? Tell us. Yeah. I want to know what black deck is not running swamps. I mean, there might be one. There's probably. I'm sure there is. I just don't know what it is.
Exactly. Tell us, please. We want to know. For real. Red. Actually, I have one for this one. I cut Bolt today out of Kedis and Kelith. I was like, the hell with Bolt. I was like, I don't need to be bolting your dudes. I just give my dude trample and then you die.
Yeah, you're just playing Kiln Fiend out here. Just
Yeah.
win in turn 3.
Yeah.
So I was okay with cutting Bolt from that deck. But after that deck, I'm not sure if there's many others. Maybe there is.
No.
If you have one, tell us.
Yeah, and even then, that's still like, you're okay with not getting rid of Bolt because you said it's going to replace it with a trample spell, which you're playing Cataclysm. Then hitting's going to bolt everyone anyway.
Yep. Then last but not least, one that is never forgotten, green. I actually have one for this one too, believe it or not.
Do you?
I do. We actually just cut vines from Siverus in Cloakwood Hermit. Just cut it. It ended up being such a dead card in hand because we'd rather just kill your thing or just get a way to win the game because it's a mid-range style deck, so you don't have many ways to win. So whatever little push you could give it assisted, and that made the deck sit back too often. So
Yeah, that's an issue that I was running in with testing recently, where, Rohan, you saw that I just kept mana open for felt like no reason, because I still had stuff in hand, and I just had mana open. I was like, I'll eventually fire something off. I don't know when. It'll happen.
I mean, yeah, I feel like you want to play to the board as much as possible with that deck.
But, I mean, that's pretty much everything we have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this conversation about, raw power versus engines. Just like I said, we're going to come back at a later point in time for a few of these videos and touch back on, the artifact sections that we have in our format. But, this is just the Wooburg editions of what we have currently. And definitely, give us a like, give us some comments down below if you can. But with all that said, take us home.
So if you're not running any of these super powerful cards in your deck, again, throw it down in the comments. Let us know about it. Chat about it in our Discord server and throw it into our deck discussion channel, just so we can go take a look at them and have constructive criticism and have a constructive conversations about the decks. Because again, there's always going to be some weird outlier as to why you're not running this. Again, as to Bolt in Cataclysm, good reason. Not running Vines in Siverus, you don't want to hold back on stuff. But with that, take a look at the synergies that we discussed and start trying to figure out nice ways to incorporate them into your deck. And with that, thank you everyone. Have an amazing week. See you in Sanctuary.
Here's a shout out to all of our Patreons: Eric Christopher, Aaron, Dax, Devin, Rohan, Little Red Lotad, Kunks, and Scoob. Thank you everyone for all of your support.